If you listen to the show for any amount of time, you know that I do have a merch store or two, and I don't generally push my merch because I don't feel comfortable hitting you guys up for money. But if you're listening to me on anything resembling a regular basis, you probably laugh at the same things I do. You probably think a lot of the same things I do. So why don't you go check out horribledesigns.com. They have assorted merchandise with funny comments on it, funny t-shirts, funny mouse pads, funny coffee cups, and then some stuff that maybe not necessarily so funny, but is definitely relevant, whether it's a social opinion, an economic opinion, a stance on, things like veganism, or whether or not you need essential oils in your life. So, yeah, anyway, that's my little plug. I have some of their shirts. They're comfortable. They're cool. I like them. HorribleDesigns.com. Go check it out. The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. We are going to start out with our supporter shout-outs. So thank you to Josh, Jake, B-Word, Iceman, Jason, Miss Aaron, Mike, Tabby, and Javier. Thank you guys for the support of the show. I appreciate it. You are all very valuable people to me, and I really appreciate your support. So thank you so much, guys. Now, we're just going to kind of dive into it. It was this past Saturday in Chicago. There was a massive clusterfuck of a thing. Now, there are a couple other smaller things that have happened this week. I mean, they're huge on a global scale, but they're smaller in my mind at the moment because the Chicago riot basically happened on my own front fucking door, on a scale of, as opposed to the other things I want to touch on. So basically what happened is a bunch of teenagers were in downtown Chicago, an area that during the 2020 bullshit that was going on was fairly safe by comparison. Just a bunch of kids who have completely lost their fucking minds because they weren't raised. They're not responsible. They don't believe in accountability. I think the number was estimated to be around a couple thousand kids just acting fucking stupid. They were destroying vehicles, storefronts, CTA buses, assaulting people. A few people got shot. There were multiple gunshots reported. There was a woman who, on a video that went viral, was beaten down for the crime of being white in the wrong place at the wrong time by a mob of motherfuckers. 4 people have been arrested thus far, and the cops are looking for anybody else that might have information about the other people, because apparently arresting 4 people, and I've seen the video, wasn't enough to get everybody who beat this woman. They put this woman into fucking critical care. She was in a critical condition Sunday. I believe they upgraded her condition for stable, but she's still in the ICU for getting stomped by a bunch of fucking teenagers that were out wiling out and being fucking stupid because they had no sense of decency or culpability or responsibility, because anybody that's going to try and say differently is full of shit and part of the fucking problem at this point. These asshole kids were not raised. They were just kind of hatched and thrown to their own fucking devices, and by and wide it's already being pandered by the political assholes who have some point of agenda. The mayor-elect for the city of Chicago issued a statement Sunday morning basically saying he didn't really blame the kids. Like, we shouldn't blame the kids for the exact phrasing in the tweet he posted immediately upon the reporting of this is, "In no way do I condone the destructive activity we saw in the Loop and Lakefront this weekend. It is unacceptable and has no place in our city. However, it's not constructive to demonize youth who have otherwise been starved of opportunities in their own communities. Our city must work together to create spaces for youth to gather safely and responsibly under adult guidance and supervision to ensure that every part of our city remains welcome to both residents and visitors. This is one aspect of my comprehensive approach to improve public safety and make Chicago livable for everyone." Now, call me crazy. This guy has been Chicago got rid of Beetlejuice and they elected somebody fucking worse. The city is going to tear itself apart in the next couple of years. I hate to say it, but I guarantee it. It's going to be a fucking nightmare because this asshole doesn't want any accountability for anybody who's not white. That's pretty much been his platform. Looters, rioters, people breaking the law. It's not their fault. It's just that the system has been so unfair to them. They've been just fucked over by existing laws and regulations. And on top of everything else, he's also this like massive, he refused during the riots in 2020, he refused to condone or condemn the looters because he's saying, oh, we don't condone their behavior, but frankly, they're acting out of desperation. We pay attention to the cries that they're having. We shouldn't embrace looting, but you can't condone looting that corporates do every single day. This motherfucker justified criminal actions by saying corporations were making too much money. And this is the fucking idiot that the people of Chicago elected. I hate to see it. There's some really great things in Chicago, but there's a lot of fucked up stuff. And honestly, at this point, they deserve what they get. They fucking asked for this, and when the city tears itself apart, they fucking had it coming. I'm sorry to the good people that live there. I have friends that live inside Chicago, but seriously, if you're still there after this shit, corporations are leaving. Walmart basically said they're going to pull all their stores out of the Chicago metro area because they're losing money by keeping them open. And so, and then people want to get snarky. Oh, well, we prefer to shop at Target and da-da-da-da-da. That's why Walmart's failing in Chicago. No, Walmart is failing in Chicago because they have basically opened stores in places where people were written free passes to steal shit, to do whatever they want. It's kind of symptomatic of things you see in other big ultra-liberal cities all around the country, say San Francisco, and a lot of places in California where companies and businesses are pulling up stakes and saying there's no fucking point in being here because we can't make any money because you don't give a shit about the corporations. Now, granted, I'm not saying I'm a huge corporate sympathizer, but this is the way a free market works. Corporations exist to turn a fucking profit, not to take a loss and fund people that are too fucking lazy to go out and earn the money to buy the things they want because they have a sense of entitlement. They think they should be able to have whatever they want. And when you have politicians and legal people trying to make it legal for assholes to do whatever they want and not have to pay a price for doing shit like stealing anything up to $1,000 worth of shit, you're not there. The business has no incentive to stay there, and then they want to act outraged when the businesses pull stakes. It's not realistic to say they're out of line for wanting to protect a profit margin when you want them to be basically a fucking charity. That's not how this works. It's not realistically how life should work. And most of the people spouting this shit are rich and completely out of fucking touch with survival, but they want to use all the broke, desperate motherfuckers to leverage their own gains. And they're utter fucking hypocrites. I can't stand any of them. I can't wait till the mob tears these fucking things apart. And I don't mean mob as in mafia. I mean mob as in the unruly, unwashed, unrestrained masses who no longer have anything to fear. I feel terrible for anybody who is still a cop in Chicago in the coming years because it's going to turn into fucking Beirut. It really is. I mean, just to kind of reinforce the point, Saturday night when all this bullshit was going on in Chicago, media people that were out there trying to cover this horse shit were all pulled out by their bosses. They were told to get out of there before things got bad. Local news organizations literally told journalists, get out of there. And as of last I heard, it was 2 teenagers were shot during the bullshit going on. They were busting into stores. They were in they were a few blocks away from the Bean. You know, anybody that's probably not from the area, that can kind of give you a frame of reference because that seems to be something that's pretty well known around the country. Or you can Google it and look it up. That's supposed to be a nicer part of town. Lakeshore and that downtown area is supposed to be the nice shit. And these kids were out there acting like assholes, trashing cars, busting out windows, assaulting CTA workers. Like they were fucking with people, the bus drivers. Why? There's no reason for that. These motherfuckers are just trying to make a living. And you got these fucking idiotic teenage assholes that just out being stupid for the sake of destroying shit because they can. Because they know they're going to get away with it. And it's fucking utterly disgusting. And honestly, I'm at the point where it's like the 4 kids who they've got in custody so far, let's throw something at the parents too. Let's find out why. Maybe if parents knew they were going to be held accountable when their little bastards were out doing horrible shit, they wouldn't be so quick to go, oh, not my angel. And they'd be a lot quicker to go, look, motherfucker, if I wind up in jail because of your ass, you better hope we're in different blocks because I'm going to beat your ass. But then again, I'm an old school asshole that, I'm backwards thinking and whatever else the fucking ultra liberal motherfuckers are going to say for me saying, you know what, there's a reason why my kid's not out there doing that dumb shit. Because I didn't raise a piece of shit. I actually raised a decent human being. It's hard. That's why so many people don't do it, because we're a bunch of lazy motherfuckers that don't want to take responsibility for their kids. They want society to raise them for them. That's why they want all these legislations. Oh, well, you got to protect the kids. You got to think about the kids. No, motherfucker, that's not the world's job. It's not the world's job to raise your fucking spawn. It is your job. It is your responsibility. When you took the choice to go out and decide to start fucking, you knew the chance that there would be a kid. That's kind of what fucking's for. So if you took the chance, you got to take the consequences that go with it. One of the consequences of fucking is kids. Having a kid means you're supposed to commit and raise them and teach them to be decent fucking human beings. And that's where so many people are failing. And that's why things have gotten to be so shitty. And that we have the government and the media pushing this shit on us, trying to tell people that it's okay that they want to be hands-off parents and let the country raise their kid. And not acknowledging that this is what you get. This only happens in these mega densely populated, ultra-liberal fucking havens. This shit does not happen where there are still, and I hate to say conservative because the far right-wing motherfuckers irritate me just as much. But on the other hand, I don't see, Jethro that was raised going to church and working the farm between times when he's in class and going to football practice, out there whiling out destroying cop cars for shits and gigs. It's fucking ridiculous. And it's ongoing, and it's kind of pathetic that people will defend this. People will stand up for the kids and try to make them out to be victims. Every goddamn one of these assholes was old enough to know better, but for some reason they just don't give a shit because they know there's not going to be any consequences for their fucking actions. And so one of the things that happened in this past week since the last time we talked is there was an arrest in the case of the Pentagon Papers that were leaked. Honestly, my 2 pennies on the whole thing is the way it went down and the fact that they had like drone footage or news helicopter footage of the takedown and who the person that got taken down for it was. Maybe I'm getting too conspiracy minded, but I mean, it did not seem legit. It screams patsy to me. It's a fucking E3 Air Force reservist kid who's like 20 or 21 years old I forget which it is, but, barely out of fucking high school. So first off, how is it that he was able to get access to all these, sensitive documents that up until the fact that they figured out who it was, the president's going, oh, I'm not even worried about those documents. Of course you're not worried, Joe. You don't know what it is and your handlers didn't fucking prompt you on it. So who gives a fuck what you think? But beyond that, the fact that they were able to run down the leaker so rapidly brings things into suspicion, particularly because, they didn't find out who the Supreme Court leaker was, although they probably know. It's just that they don't fucking care because, again, that, tails more to party politics than anything else. And the Supreme Court leaker wasn't threatening the military-industrial complex, so why would they really be in any kind of hurry to worry about that leak? And on top of which, if this kid was actually the one who legitimately leaked these documents, good for him, because finding out that the U.S. has troops on the ground in Ukraine shows that the White House is violating the Constitution by putting troops into an active war zone when they are not authorized to be there by an act of war declared by Congress, which is how this thing is supposed to work. Because the president, contrary to what a lot of America thinks, does not just have unilateral authority to do whatever the fuck he wants. That's not the way the system was set up. It's supposed to be checks and balances. That's why this prick is not supposed to be ruling through fucking presidential decrees, just like the last prick wasn't supposed to. Just like none of these pricks are supposed to be doing it. Executive orders are not supposed to be how they rule. And the funny thing is, Biden said shit about that when Trump was signing executive orders, and then he comes in and he's signed more in the first 2 years of his term than Trump signed in his whole fucking, term. It's utterly ridiculous. But it is what it is, too. The system is fucked. The system is broken. And it's it is. I despair in a lot of ways between the future that is being foisted on all of us, in large part due to the manipulation of Gen Z by the geriatric fucks that are behind the wheel. And we are being punished at the whims of young, dumb motherfuckers. And a lot of it's our own fault. I'm speaking here to my generation, the millennials, the Gen Xers. We fucked up. I mean, everything we complain about these little bastards, we're their parents. We're the ones who were supposed to raise them. So, yeah, that's on us. And maybe we took it for granted that they would just de facto kind of pick up our ways, but they didn't. And we failed as fucking parents. And I hate to say it because I know there's a lot of us that didn't. A lot of us did okay. Again, I'm painting in broad strokes here because I am concerned for not only the future of the country, but the future of our fucking society. I mean, we are standing in a place that is really pretty fucking grim. And we're busy focused on all this stupid bullshit instead of the cold, hard reality of what's going to be coming down the pike for us if we're not fucking careful. And realistically, the people in power don't have any incentive to do the things that need to be done to stop the bad shit from happening because they're basically, the train's on fire and they're riding it till it crashes. They're going to ride this cart till the wheels fall off, then they're going to golden parachute the fuck out of it using whatever resources they stashed in the meantime, leaving the everyday motherfuckers to deal with the blowback from all their piss poor management. You know, we've got basically a recession looming if you don't consider us already being in it. The gas prices are climbing steadily back up, particularly since OPEC decided they're going to cut down on oil production. And they are now accepting payments in forms not the U.S. dollar, which has weakened the position of the U.S. dollar as a petro-backed currency. And we have basically lost reserve currency status, which I've talked about in the past. So you couple that with reckless government spending that is showing no bottom, the fact that inflationary rates are the Fed, which we don't need the Fed. The Fed is a private bank that has the authority to print money out of thin fucking air, subsequently making the situation worse. The Fed is raising interest rates because that's what they have to do to try and slow the inflation and take money out of circulation so people stop spending so much money so they can recoup things. Now, what's going to happen is what we saw happen before, where the housing market got where everything's unreasonable and then everything is going to collapse. People are going to lose their fucking asses because they're not going to be able to pay their mortgages again. And then the Fed is going to go around and buy up all this bad debt. And then all of a sudden you got the Fed that owns all this bad debt and all these properties that are attached to it. And then they're going to wait until the market restabilizes, inflation comes down a little bit, and then they're going to resell it at a profit. That's what they do. It's how they stay in business. And it's just going to keep happening, and it's going to be getting worse. It's going to be compounding and getting more out of hand. And we really are. We're in a bad spot right now. And I think a lot of us are distracted by all the bullshit that's going on in the world and not paying attention to the stuff that's really going to wind up fucking us all over in the end. Things are going to get bad. They're going to get hard because where we're at, the things they keep doing to try and fix these situations are patches. They're stopgap measures. They are putting this shit off, and they're doing it like a year at a time. We got to push the debt ceiling back so we don't default on our debt. Like, yeah, they're not going to do anything to actually, responsibly spend or spend within their limits. They're just going to raise the debt ceiling, and they do it for little short increments so they can just, we have an election right around the fucking corner. They're going to start campaigning on debt ceiling bullshit. And I'm paying off America's debt and blah, 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 blah. Now, at this point, we have so much debt in this country that the interest rate is going to break us on the debt before it fucking does anything else. The system's a house of cards built on a fucking bunch of sand, and the tide's starting to come in. And it's going to collapse. It's going to be fucked. I've spent a lot of time talking about diversify your skill sets, diversify your holdings, get multiple sources of income coming in because you're going to fucking need it. Now I'm starting to think more in the terms of learn skills that you're going to need to fucking survive, because when the market does collapse and you're going to need a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of fucking bread, you might be better situated if you could trade something for some flour and make your own goddamn bread? You know, and it's hard to say this isn't necessarily deliberate. They're going to either inflate away all the debt, or they're going to use this to push everybody into a centralized digital currency, which, I mean, I was not opposed to the idea of digital currency when it was decentralized and unable to be regulated, but a government-controlled centralized currency puts you completely at the mercy of the government. Not to say you're not at the mercy of the government now, but it's a much more of a process for them to interact in certain aspects of your life. Whereas if they can simply shut down your access to the money you have, you are no longer a free human being at that point. You are a slave because you have to do what they tell you to do, or they will just take away your ability to support yourself and stay alive. It's a really bad place we find ourselves in. And in the meantime, we're busy worrying about a caricature of a woman who claims to be a transvestite that's getting all sorts of endorsement deals. And there are so many other things going on. There is so much media coverage about violence and shootings, and it's constantly talked about. And it's not... There's two different schools of thoughts on this whole matter. One school of thought is the problems have always just been there, and we didn't know about it as well because it wasn't as covered, because we didn't have social media. We didn't have people out there being their own journalists taking videos of shit, but this shit was always going on. And then there's the other school of thought that this shit is getting progressively worse because, again, and I think regardless of how you feel about it, I think social media is definitely involved in this because, and my personal stance is, it's like social media, mass media, corporate media has all made a point of pushing this division and these strife and conflict. And you've got social media influencers out there telling people that they're and on both sides of the aisle, telling people their way of life is in jeopardy. Their very existence is under threat. And so you've got more and more people snapping. And we don't have, family structure. We don't have responsibility. We don't have accountability. All the things that, used to come from your parents and your home and your family people are looking to the state for answers. And all that does is hand the state more control and more power. And it's a very trite thing that's out there that was said. It says when the government's allowed to do whatever it wants in the name of an emergency, the government will create emergencies to maintain their power. And I really think that's part of what we're seeing. They don't want well-educated, independent individuals anymore in this country. They want useful idiots, drones, and people that will keep the fucking little tiny percentage of motherfuckers in power in power. And anytime something comes along to jeopardize that, it's immediately just shuffled off to the side by the mainstream media and the mass media outlets. The whole leaker for the documents about the shit going on in Ukraine is a prime example. The way the media is covering it is not that, our government is lying to us and treating us like assholes. It's that a 21-year-old leaked the documents and, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Security this, and they're going to probably send the kid out. They're probably going to wind up sticking this poor kid in fucking Guantanamo Bay for revealing information. And, they're already, he was doing it to try and flex for his Discord server buddies and da-da-da-da-da. Now, if that is legit, all it was is, he's trying to flex for that, fine. It doesn't really matter. It still brings to light the information that the government was lying to us, and nobody seems to give a shit about that part of things. Now, whether it's because we take for granted that these assholes are constantly lying to us anyway, or the fact that we're just that fucking compliant and stupid these days, either way, it's a problem, to say the least. And it's about distraction. It's about misdirection. It's screwing us all over. We have to start being better. We have to treat this country like a fucking relationship. But we want it to be functional. We want it to last. We have really got to start working on our communication. We got to start working on focusing on things that don't divide us, things that don't tear us apart. Oh, and speaking of division and things that tear us apart, quick update on the fucking wonderful grifter that is Dylan Mulvaney and the Bud Light can scandal issue. The person who was responsible for that, basically, she's already done an interview. She was very proud of herself of being the first female VP of marketing for Budweiser. And as a VP of marketing for Budweiser, she was very proud to, instead of, first thing she had to do is put somebody who's a character of a female on a can and work out a partnership with them. And basically, she came out and she did an interview, I guess, basically saying that she kind of was not real thrilled with her job, was not, because she wasn't doing what all her ultra woke friends and college friends in New York were doing. She wasn't doing something that was super, aligning with her political beliefs by working for Budweiser, and she was just trying to make a point and prove herself. And then, social media being what it is and the internet being some of the best detectives in the world in a lot of cases, all kinds of shit of her after she called Bud Light of having a frat boy image and kind of slandering the entire market base for this fucking piss water that passes off as beer. She winds up, a bunch of pictures come out of her in college doing all kinds of frat boy shit, or sorority chick, tomato, tomato, whatever. So yeah, total fucking hypocrite, trying to push woke agenda, trying to virtue signal so her fucking friends will think she's doing something. Cost the company something like $5 billion over the course of like a month or less than a month. Anyway, they've already lost like $5 billion. Now, granted, Anheuser-Busch is still plenty profitable. It's not like it's going to be a huge kick in the teeth for them, but it was a massive drop in a very short amount of time. And the number's only going to change, particularly if the hardcore fan base that was completely slighted by this and offended, and I'm not necessarily saying they should be right to be offended for that fucking grifter getting a can, which is what a lot of them were in a knee-jerk reaction. We're like, oh, they put a tranny on my canny. I ain't happy with this shit. But ultimately, like I said, I hate Dylan because I think Dylan's a fucking con artist. But beyond that, what I found offensive was the way she just kind of shrugged off Bud Light's core fan base. That means she should not have that fucking job, because the whole point of marketing is to understand where your product goes and who's buying your product and to market it to the people that are going to buy your product. I don't think there are a lot of people out there that fit that mold of Dylan Mulvaney's target audience that are drinking fucking Bud Light. So it was a poorly planned decision. It was done purely for like social credit points, so she could prove to her little friends how woke she was. And she does not deserve to have her fucking job. I think she still does as of the time I'm recording this. I don't know how much longer that'll fucking be, but in response, the CEO of Budweiser, or Anheuser-Busch, released a statement saying about how he loves America and he wants to bring people together. They didn't want to preach division. And the funniest thing that came to me out of that was his letter was basically a big nothing burger, not an actual, like, sorry, we put somebody that we don't think you agree with on our cans or anything like that. They did say they're going to reassess their influencer partnerships and more thoroughly in the future, but, whatever. Who gives a shit about that? I hate influencers anyway. Unless somebody wants me to sponsor their product, in which case, hey, hit your boy up. I will be more than happy to shill the fuck out of pretty much anything if you give me money and free shit. But at least I'm honest about being for sale. I'm not going to sit there and pretend I'm anything other than an easily swayed little whore because daddy's got needs and daddy ain't got the money for the toys he wants. So, hey, let me know. But I digress. Yeah, so the most interesting thing that came out of that was we found out the CEO of Anheuser-Busch used to be a fucking spook, because somebody went online and looked this guy up, and on his LinkedIn profile and his resume, he worked for the CIA for fucking years. So, kind of makes you wonder, like, a lot of Anheuser-Busch is saying, oh, well, we were unaware of what the direction she was going with this partnership and blah, 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 blah. And the official line is the higher-ups didn't fucking know what was going on. And you get a lot of people arguing about that. They're like, oh, well, things don't go. People don't get to do things without approval. And the people who are saying that, trying to say that the Anheuser-Busch people are full of shit, saying that the executive board didn't know what exactly was going to happen with this and what was going on and specifics about partnerships with influencers, I'm actually more inclined to believe that that's probably the case. I don't think the executive board oversaw the marketing campaigns directly. I think they said, we hired this woman to be the vice president of marketing for Bud Light, for that division of the brand, and they trusted her to make those executive decisions, because that's what you hire vice presidents for. That's why you hire executives, to make the minutiae decisions of things that are going to go, things that aren't going to go, so the higher-up executive boards don't have to deal with that shit, and they get to deal with this, either whatever their particular division of VP of fucking whatever happens to be, or whatever higher level they are, until they get to the point where it's all about the big money moves and the big decisions. They don't worry about the minutiae and the day-to-day bullshit of running businesses. That's what they have underlings for. That's how a corporate structure works. And that is what makes me think a lot of people in America don't understand how corporate structures work and are kind of fucking stupid and have unrealistic expectations about how life should work because of it. So, again, failing in the education system, which I honestly at this point believe is deliberate because it keeps dumb people are easier to manipulate. That's all it fucking boils down to. People that are willfully fucking ignorant are even easier because all you got to do is tell them what they want to hear and they will do what you want them to do. It's really not complicated, and we need to be better than that. We need to be smarter than that. We need to start pushing back and bring back critical thinking, bring back analysis, bring back asking fucking questions, and not ostracizing people for asking, because that's the only way you fucking learn. And our current culture, anybody that questions anything is immediately branded and labeled and called an outcast and made into be. We're entering another fucking dark age, which is ironic because we have more technology at our disposal than ever before. And unfortunately, instead of making people better, it's making them fucking dumber. And we need to do better. We need to be better. We need to call these things out. We need to question. We need to ask. And then we need to not try and shit on other people for doing the same thing. We need to not shit on people that are trying to better themselves. We need to not shit on people that are trying to learn and grow. So I guess that's kind of my call out this week. Just try and encourage people to, do it without being an overly don't do it assault style. Don't force people to try and see things your way. Just try and force people to think. Just encourage them. Tell them to do their own research. Tell them to ask questions. Tell them to get outside of their comfort zones. Tell them to listen to the show, and I'll tell them to do it. And I don't care if I hurt their feelings because, what the hell? It's what I'm here for. Hard truths, cold realities, and the fucking way it is. But anyway, let's be good to each other. Let's take care of each other. Let's try and pull this fucking train wreck to the side before, maybe the caboose isn't caught on fire yet, I'm pretty sure the engine's fucked and most of the cargo carts are probably, catching and getting ready to derail. Maybe we can save the passenger car and the fucking caboose if we can really get our shit together. So I guess, for now, that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating. Go to ihadtosayitpodcast.com, sign up for the mailing list, interact with the show. Click the links, sign up for the Patreon, join the Discord, come and interact, be a part of the show, buy the merch, support your favorite creator, or support me. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Till next time.